right? So it's actually a very interesting story about how MediSim VR came. There's usually an edited version and an unedited version. I think this being a professional forum, I will stick to the edited version. So I am a surgeon by profession, and right from the time I finished surgery, I was always interested in minimal access surgery, and I went for various fellowships, and even during the course, I realized that training for minimal access surgery was the same boxes, what we call the box simulators, something which my dad trained on 20 years back, right? So that's something which was extremely eye-opening, and that's when I started thinking we should start looking at what's available across the world in terms of the latest training for healthcare solutions. So at this point of time, I realized that with why the current generation of simulators were not being taken up, and realized that this was something which could be addressed with the right team and the right talent, which is abundant in India, which is where my co-founders come into picture, and with their expertise in the area of VR and already building training solutions for various other industries, we realized we would be very, very quickly capable of delivering a solution of immense value to the healthcare fraternity. So this was a short story of how we joined hands and how three founders from various different backgrounds came together to form MediSim VR. So this has been a quick, short journey or a long journey compared to various other use case scenarios, but it's been 4 years since we formed MediSim VR, and all the time in research has now been well spent. This has led us to where we are today. So now, actually, we had a very long relationship with PIMS before we actually set the lab up. My relationship with PIMS goes back almost to 15 years because I was about to join PIMS. I remember coming in for the entrance, meeting the principal, and then subsequently, by luck of the draw, I got a seat in a government medical college, and I did not follow through on PIMS. But right from that point of time, I always knew that PIMS was to play a role in my life. I didn't realize when and how it was going to be. But let's fast forward 15 years, and then through our advisor, we got to meet Renu ma'am and speak to her about the vision we had in terms of how medical training can be transformed with the right initiative from both the institutions and the technology side. We were very surprised at how quickly things happened from that point of time onwards. We went through a rigorous process, but I have full respect for Renu ma'am and Johnny sir and how proactive they were in making sure they had us come speak to various faculty, and then we had spent some time with the students, and subsequently they came and visited our lab in KIMS, and then decided that this was something which the students at their institution must enjoy. So from that point of time, it did take us a fair bit of time to cut through the red tape and get all the agreements in place. But after they gave the go-ahead, she gave us unconditional support in terms of setting the lab up and requirements from the institution to develop something on this scale. So long story short, what the lab you're seeing now in your institution happened not just because of the efforts we put in, but in the faculty and the management at PIMS being so proactive in pushing for technology which is just emerging. Probably the most important or exciting thing for you students must be how you're going to be using the lab over the course of the next few years. Right now, we are going to be training you guys on all your basic skill requirements before you start practicing them on patients. That is going to be the advantage, be it learning how to assess a patient when he first comes in, putting in an IV line, so putting in a catheter, a nasogastric tube, various things like that. Things which, if you're lucky enough, you will get to do it on a patient. But more often than not, from experience, I know that if this is not something we take up right at the start, these are skills which we tend to avoid picking up right till the end. So that's where I think this is going to truly change the way you guys are going to be learning skills. You will all be able to learn the required skills and make sure you're proficient at it before you approach a patient. The confidence this will give you will make a huge difference in the way you approach patients and your career moving forward. So the lab will cater to these kind of skill requirements, and virtual patients is going to be another very interesting feature of the lab. So getting material to learn from is a challenge in medical institutions. Usually patients might sit for 5 minutes and then get really annoyed when the next person comes to examine or see a sign or a symptom on them. That is where this is going to be a game changer. You can walk into the lab anytime, get to see any sign or symptom on a patient, and have the experience of a case discussion as to how it might feel during an examination. And imagine having access to all patients 10 days before your viva and just being able to see it at your beck and call. I think that makes a huge difference for a student preparing for his examination. And I think that is how I see the lab functioning for the next few years. We'll be talking about where I see the lab being 3 years down the line. Cool. I think this is a very interesting thing we're going to be talking about next. Where do we see a lab like this being 3 years from now? Right now, this is the evolution of the technology. But what's going to happen is that 3-4 years down the line, we would have advanced so far that this will become something a much more extensive, fancier, more breakthrough version of your computer labs in institutions, where you can walk in at any point of time, learn whatever material you want to at your whim and fancy. I think this is going to change the way medical students train in the near future. Even when it comes to in terms of education, if you're going to spend half an hour wearing a headset looking at an anatomy model, I'm sure you will learn a great deal more than the same if you spend the same time looking at a textbook. I knew I was a distracted kid when I was a student. If I spent a couple of hours with a textbook, I would have spent 15-20 minutes looking at it actually. But that is something virtual reality won't allow you to do. You spend half an hour, you will have full use out of the half an hour, and that's where this technology plays a special role. And it will also make sure that whatever time you spend here will not just be educational but extremely exciting as well. This is not even to mention the games which we can play on virtual reality. Cool, cheers.